The soft melody of a violin floated across the luxurious garden as guests in elegant evening gowns and tailored tuxedos mingled around crystal tables. Golden lights reflected on the sparkling swimming pool at the center of the estate, making the entire venue look like a scene from a fairy tale. For Emily Carter, however, there was nothing magical about this evening. She adjusted the black apron tied around her waist and balanced a silver tray filled with champagne glasses. It was her third 12-hour shift that week, and every muscle in her body ached. Still, she forced herself to smile. She needed this job. Her mother's medical bills had drained every dollar she had saved. Her younger brother was preparing for college, and Emily refused to let him abandon his dreams because of money. "Keep smiling," her manager whispered as he hurried past. "These people pay more for one dinner than you'll make this month." Emily nodded politely. She had learned long ago that kindness cost nothing, even when life seemed determined to charge her for everything else. The event was hosted at the magnificent mansion of business tycoon Richard Hawthorne. CEOs, celebrities, politicians, and investors from across the country had gathered to celebrate the launch of his latest charitable foundation. Ironically, many of the guests seemed far less charitable than the foundation they were honoring. "Waitress." One woman snapped her fingers without even looking at Emily. "More champagne." Emily walked over immediately. "Of course, ma'am." As she poured the drink carefully, another guest frowned. "Be careful. That dress probably costs more than your yearly salary." Several people chuckled. Emily simply smiled. "I'll be careful." Her calm response disappointed them. They had expected embarrassment. Instead, they received grace. Across the garden, an older gentleman observed everything quietly. Daniel Sinclair. Few people recognized him because he rarely attended public events anymore. At 62, he was one of the country's wealthiest self-made billionaires. Unlike many guests, Daniel disliked attention. Tonight, he had accepted the invitation only because Richard had been an old friend. Daniel noticed something unusual. Every rude guest eventually crossed paths with the same waitress. And every single time, she responded with patience. No anger. No complaints. Just quiet dignity. He smiled to himself. Interesting. Meanwhile, Emily continued serving drinks. As the evening grew busier, waiters rushed between tables carrying expensive meals and sparkling desserts. Near the pool, a group of wealthy young influencers laughed loudly while taking photos for social media. One of them extended his foot just slightly into the walkway. Emily never saw it. Her shoe caught his leg. The tray flew into the air. Champagne glasses shattered across the marble floor. Emily lost her balance. For one terrifying second she reached for anything she could grab. There was nothing. Splash. She fell straight into the swimming pool. The elegant music stopped. Every conversation froze. Emily surfaced, soaked from head to toe. Her hair clung to her face. Her uniform was ruined. Silence lasted only a moment. Then, laughter erupted everywhere. People pointed. Several guests recorded videos with their phones. "Oh my goodness. Did anyone catch that? Post it. This is priceless." The young man who had tripped her laughed the loudest. "I didn't even touch her." His friends burst into hysterics. Emily's cheeks burned with humiliation. She climbed slowly out of the water, shivering despite the warm evening. I'm so sorry," she whispered to the manager. Instead of helping her, he looked furious. "Do you realize how much those glasses cost? I'll pay for them." He scoffed. "With what?" More laughter followed. Emily lowered her eyes. She wanted the ground to swallow her whole. Then, a chair scraped loudly against the stone patio. The sound echoed through the silent garden. Everyone turned. Daniel Sinclair stood. He wasn't smiling. His calm expression had disappeared completely. Instead, his eyes carried quiet disappointment. Without saying a word, he removed his expensive tailored suit jacket. Ignoring everyone else, he walked directly toward Emily. Guests exchanged confused looks. What was the billionaire doing? Daniel stopped beside the trembling waitress. He gently placed his jacket over her soaked shoulders. "It's cold," he said softly. Emily stared at him in surprise. "Thank you, sir." He looked around at the crowd. His voice remained calm, but every word struck like thunder. "I've attended business meetings on 5 continents. I've negotiated billion-dollar contracts. I've met presidents, kings, and world leaders." He paused. But tonight, he slowly turned toward the laughing guests. I've never seen so many wealthy people behave so poorly. Silence. Complete silence. No one dared speak. Daniel continued. This young woman fell. You laughed. Not one of you offered your hand. His eyes settled on the influencer who had stretched out his foot. You. The young man's smile disappeared instantly. Stand up. He obeyed nervously. Did you trip her? I. Daniel waited. Finally, the young man admitted quietly. It was supposed to be a joke. A joke. Daniel repeated. A joke makes everyone laugh. What you did humiliated another human being. That's not humor. That's cruelty. No one moved. Even Richard Hawthorne looked uncomfortable. Daniel turned back toward Emily. What is your name? Emily. Emily Carter. How long have you worked here? Almost 2 years. Were you treated like this before tonight? Emily hesitated. She didn't want anyone fired. It's okay, Daniel encouraged gently. She nodded slightly. Sometimes. Daniel sighed. He looked at Richard. My friend, if this is how your staff is treated, your foundation still has much to learn about charity. Richard lowered his head. You're right. He immediately walked toward Emily. I'm deeply sorry. Then something happened that shocked every guest. Richard took the microphone from the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening's celebration is temporarily suspended. Gasps spread through the crowd. Before we continue, I believe every member of my staff deserves the same respect as every guest sitting here. Applause began. At first only a few people clapped. Then more joined. Not because they suddenly became kind. Because they realized Daniel Sinclair was watching. Emily stood speechless. Daniel leaned closer. Don't mistake delayed applause for immediate character. She looked at him. You deserve respect whether anyone is watching or not. For the first time that evening, Emily smiled. A genuine smile. She had no idea that this single moment would completely change her life. Nor did she realize that Daniel Sinclair had already made a decision. One that would astonish everyone before the night was over. When you're ready,